Today, I want to show you my super productive home office setup for finding flow and help you decide what might be useful or not useful for your own workplace setup. In the book, The War of Art, Stephen Pressfield talks about how the muse shows up wherever you regularly show up. So the muse, in other words, is the flow state that breathes insight and higher consciousness into us. When in flow, we experience that higher order self that is a peak experience, but at the same time, the benefits of flow mean that we are producing better work and outcomes with whatever it is that we're doing. And this isn't just an answer to a meaning crisis and finding a sense of purpose. This is also how we continue to do our jobs the best in this era of the rise of AI that's continuing to become more and more efficient and capable of doing many of the tasks that our jobs were previously defined by. And since 80% of my work comes in front of a computer, I'm going to show you my setup and the desk setup for that workspace. But keep in mind the principles here, no matter what type of work you do, that can carry over to the essence of your job as well. The chef has their mise en place, the artist has their canvas and paint ready to go. No matter what your job is, setting up an efficient workspace just allows you to show up and be ready when the muse comes calling. Now let's start with the desk. Every workplace that I set up from here on out will have a standing desk in it. Let me explain why. You end up being more productive and energized when you're standing. Your posture is better, which reduces shoulder and neck pain and back pain, which is the most important to me. Something that inspired me and made me want to make this video now was that I got away from using my workspace and standing desk last year because I had herniated a disc and I was bedridden for several weeks. And so this kind of continued forward, that I was working laying on my back on the couch in the morning because of back pain. And when I finally got back to working at the standing desk, I realized how valuable that space and time to just really focus and not have any other distractions and be ultimately productive through standing and working at a desk really made a difference. And I'm so happy that I'm at a good place with managing back pain right now, because I'm so much more productive when I'm using an actual desk setup rather than trying to just work off of my back on the couch. And even if you can't buy an adjustable sit-stand desk, you can get creative in making a standing desk for yourself. My dad and I took this old coffee table and mounted 4x4 legs on it to create this really great desktop for me. I used to have these two desks with the adjustable as well as that permanent standing desk set up in an L shape. But lately I've been liking having the other desk as more of a separate prep station and charging station for devices. And it's been working really great in the background lately. Now, the second thing is having a second monitor in place. I used to think it was super dangerous to have a second monitor set up as a distraction, but I found that if you use it correctly, it's a powerhouse move for any work on a computer, because most of the things that we do can benefit from that extra screen real estate, whether we are editing videos and having our files on the second screen, or an additional panel for the video editing software, or same thing with photo editing, doing anything in a browser that requires you to copy and move over to another window always makes it much easier if you can just keep those stacked on the same larger monitor or on side-by-side monitors. It's endless how often I benefit from a second monitor, and that to me is another thing that I try to have in place in any of my workspaces now. It also can be nice but totally unnecessary to have a nature photo on the second monitor if you are just working on one screen, but that's a bit of a flex move. I think it's completely unnecessary still to go with the second monitor. If anything that you're looking to upgrade, the desk setup probably is the first and best one to really go with. Now, as far as accessories go, it's just a keyboard and mouse setup This makes a difference if you are going to work on multiple monitors and maybe have them set up at the same desk height. As you can see, to match the best height for me when I'm standing, so I'm not craning my neck down or angled too much so that I can look straight forward, I've got the computer up on a stand so that it's at the same height as the monitor. So this is where it is really handy to have the extra keyboard and mouse. So my main setup is with the MX Master Mouse and the MX Keys keyboard. And I just love this combination, especially the extended keyboard with the number pad. But this mouse is a game changer, and I take it with me from the office to home every single day so that I'm never without it. I just find that the ergonomics, and if you're working at an extended monitor setup, makes it so much better to have the separate keyboard and mouse with you. And then another important consideration that ties in with the standing setup is having a floor mat or a wobble board. Now, I just went to Costco and got a kitchen mat that is one of those anti-fatigue mats, like a memory foam thing. And I cut it in half so that I can have half at the office and half at home. And this works great, but I've also got the wobble board that I'll show you that's at the office setup. This is something that I saw on Rian Dors's channel when he was talking about his workspace setup and what he uses. And I had to get one. It's pretty amazing to make use of. Definitely helps when you're standing at the desk a lot to be able to shift your position and posture so that you are constantly moving. And it's got this nice little roller ball on it that really helps with like working out the knots in your feet. And so I really love that thing too. I think for most of us, probably just the anti-fatigue mat, that makes a big difference, especially if you're on harder surfaces. You know, at home, this office is in the basement on tile floor that's cold and not nice to stand on. And in the office, we're on vinyl floors that are just overlaid on top of concrete. So that's another one that it's useful to have something softer to stand on to engage longer with working at the computer and not fatiguing your feet or wanting to sit down too much. And then a paper notebook is another thing that I think is essential to have at your productive workplace setup. Whether you're doing work on a computer or any other job, having a paper notebook is just a nice way to organize all of the projects and tasks that you have on the go. I've used a bullet journal for the past 7 years or so in order to organize projects across multiple businesses and areas of responsibility each week. And I don't know what I'd do without one. So it's made a big difference. And I always find that it's useful, even when primarily working in a digital world. It's very useful to just be able to get things down on paper, jot quick notes, and organize different projects without feeling like it gets lost in the computer or you don't know where to find it. And then to me, it's also essential to have a digital dashboard, something that is organized in whatever app works best for you to manage those more complex projects or ones that require collaboration online. And for me, this is what I use Notion for primarily these days. I used to use Evernote a lot, and in the past year, I've migrated completely off of that and just consolidated everything to Notion. And it's made a huge difference in knowing that I can just search and find whatever I've taken note on all within Notion. So Notion does it all for me. And the template that I bought from Thomas Frank has made it even better. And it does take some getting used to understanding how Notion works, because it's like building a productivity system with Lego blocks and making it customized to whatever matches your needs. So there's a bit of a learning curve, but once you get the hang of it, I don't think anything is as efficient, especially if you do most of your work on your own. And so you can just find that customized workspace that works best for you. So as you can see, this is a pretty simple setup, and I like it that way because There's less moving parts to worry about or complicate the whole system. Consider what you need for your work and your focus in order to produce the best quality work. Workspaces are not about fruitlessly adding more, but having the right thing at the right place at the right time. Now, something that I wanted to save for a bonus at the end of this video, if you stuck around to the end, is that lately I've also been experimenting with working in VR with the Quest 3. And I've been really curious about this ever since I made a video talking about how I thought the Apple Vision Pro would be a way to enhance deep work through immersing yourself in a distraction-free environment in VR, like sitting atop Haleakala and just working from the mountaintop in this pristine environment of bliss. So I've been curious about this for a long time. And after reading a bunch of reviews and kind of deciding that I think the Quest 3 was just as good of an option to go with as the much more expensive Apple Vision Pro, I've been testing it out and trying to see what it's like to work in a VR workspace. You know, sometimes adding in another monitor or just clearing the visual distractions from around my environment to just work in this very deep and focused environment. And just like acquiring any new skill, there is a bit of a learning curve with working in VR, and I've found it challenging at first with things like how you manipulate your hands in order to adjust the screen sizes and not have them interfere with your work, how you find and see your keyboard and mouse, and adjusting your head and neck posture so that you don't fatigue or get eye strain or anything like that. But it's been interesting to experiment with, and I'm curious to hear, have you used VR at all in your workspace? There's been a lot to adjust to for sure. The other day I turned around and almost walked into a virtual wall, and it really startled me as if I was actually walking into a wall. And so there's things to get used to, but also things that seem to be super interesting. And I wonder if the future of workplaces is less about having real monitors set up and more about just working wherever you want with multiple displays in order to manage your workflow the best. So I'm curious to hear your thoughts. What is essential in your workspace for productivity right now? And what do you think about working in VR or mixed reality as the future of work? Let me know in the comments below, and I will see you in the next video.